Hey y'all, I'm Allison Asarch from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids.
Hunters, this is Johnny from Rail Motor.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season.
Hey, it's Rob Stanier, and you can check out my music on all the streaming platforms.
Check out my latest music on all the streaming sites.
Check out my debut album on all streaming platforms.
Check out our new debut album.
Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And you're listening to our friends, Braggy and Curly.
My favorite bands from Australia.
My two favourite podcasters,
Braggy and Curly.
Braggy and Curly.
On the
Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast.
Hey there, everyone. It's Curly here, and welcome to episode 84 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. After flying solo last week and getting into a little bit of Boxcar, a little bit of Mick and Ursula and the Boxcar remix, it's an absolute pleasure to be joined again by my co-host down there in Adelaide. How are you, Braggy?
Curly, I'm really good. And thank you for doing the solo last week. It was my birthday. So that's why I kind of had a bit of a night off. I had a note from my mum. Braggy can't do this one, Curly. So
it was a bit of fun. I enjoyed. I really enjoy that Mick and Ursula Boxcar remixes, and it was interesting because I never really got into Boxcar when they were a Brisbane band in the mid '80s, but it was interesting going back and listening to some of their music. So it was a bit of fun to put together, very last minute, but it seemed to work. So you got some news for us?
Well, mate, first of all, I've had a fairly big week. Last night, I went and saw Nick Cave and Warren Ellis on their Australian Carnage tour. Which was at the Festival Theatre in Adelaide. It's the first time I've been to see Nick Cave. I'm not a massive fan, but I get what he does and I appreciate it so much. And it was actually really moving, and it was, mate, value for money. He played for like an hour and a half, and then we called him back for an encore, and he played for another hour and a half. So it was like fucking 3 hours.
Oh, you're kidding me?
No,
an hour and a
shit.
half encore.
Yes, that's how you do an encore. And one of the surprise things was that there was no guitars the whole night. How's that? 3 hours, no guitars, just him on piano, Warren Ellis on this little tiny keyboard, drummer, and a bass player that I thought I recognised, which turned out to be Colin Greenwood from Radiohead. So had Radiohead's, So.
Oh wow!
And Adelaide's the first gig, so he's travelling around Australia. So go and see him if you get the chance. I think it's worth it.
Mate,
it's just an experience, even if you don't like Nick Cave.
Yeah.
I have
Nick
one
Cave's
other bit of... Go on.
Yeah, Nick Cave's just one of those enigmas in Australian music. You know, I could never get into the birthday party. And
no, me neither.
You know, but I love some of his more somber stuff, some of that dark stuff that he put out, you know, and... But I've never seen him live, so you're one up on me. Mate.
He's had a surprising sense of humour as well. He actually said, because in the encore he did a couple of the songs from his Murder Ballads album.
Ooh,
and he turned and he said to the rest of the band, they like the murder battles in Adelaide. Because I thought that was pretty funny. Everyone thought that was funny. So he was great. I have one other piece of news. And I think way back when I did my first podcast with you, we played a band called Dr. Feelgood. It was a band
we probably did, if I remember.
It was a band I kind of just discovered, even though they're an old band. They're kind of a punky blues band from England. Well, their lead guitarist, Wilco Johnson, who also has been acting in Game of Thrones, has just passed today. So that's my news.
Do
you have any news?
There's a couple of bits of new music coming out at the moment. I have heard on the grapevine that Dave Graney's got a new album out with Claire Moore. So that's, I was listening to that during the week, Braggy. And how did I describe it? The music's delicate, but it's got depth, but it's also got space. So I don't know how that all happens, but it happens. And
it'd be good to talk to him.
Oh, mate, it would be awesome. So let's see what it can eventuate. Let's wheel that into action, shall we?
Okay, righto. Now we've got a different episode tonight.
Yes, I'll let you take the lead and introduce our special guest.
Well, we've got it. We're doing another one of our episodes because I think the last one I had some good comments about the last one we did, which is 5 songs that mean something to you or have some sort of meaning in your life. We've got another person. We've got Darren all the way up in North Queensland. Welcome, Daz.
G'day.
How are you, Darren?
Good, thanks. Early, Braggy.
And I mean, last time we had Ruby on, who was a 1997 vintage. Well, we've got the definite vintage this time. We've got a 1965 vintage. And I just have to say one thing before we do this show, Curly. It's an honour to have 2 gentlemen that were both attendees at my wedding almost 32 years ago tonight.
Wow.
So there's a connection there.
Who would have thought that 32 years later we'd still be hanging around with Braggy?
Oh, it's funny. So,
welcome, Darren. So what's the connection here?
Darren and I are old schoolmates, best buddies since we were. Oh, well, Darren, you can tell the story of how we met.
Oh, I think it was about 9 or 10 years old, I think.
Yeah.
We moved into the suburb up in Townsville, and I was riding past one day on the push bike going around the shop, and boys, Tave and his brothers and friends were playing cricket in the backyard, and the ball flew over the fence, and I got off my bike and threw it in and went straight over the stumps, and they invited me in for a game.
Oh.
That was it. Went from sport to music to lifelong friendship.
Yeah, so Darren and I played in a band together. The first band I was ever in was with this gentleman right here. So it's pretty special to have him on the show. So we're going to do 5 songs.
How would you
go, Curly.
How would you describe that band now? That very first band that you played in. How would you describe it?
Oh, it was a school band. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Started up in the early years of high school, and I sort of talk about it a little bit later when we get into the songs, but essentially, we end up winning the Battle of the Bands. That got us a bit of pub work. We had to rehearse a lot of songs very quickly and get a few sets down very quickly and tight. Supported a lot of circuit bands, so essentially just a local sort of pub band, really. And we did a little bit of work around the state, mainly up in regional Queensland. Had some residencies when the circuit bands never showed up. So we fell on our feet a few times and did all right. Yeah, we're pretty handy. I think we're pretty good, just a good solid local band.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was a good band.
Excellent.
It was a good band. Don't worry about that. It was a good, tight, young band. So, Darren, I think you've got your songs in chronological order, but I want to first ask you if you have a particular memory of first seeing music played live. I know myself, I remember my mum and dad travelling away somewhere and staying at a motel, and there being like a jazz band in the restaurant at the hotel we stayed at. And so I must have been like 5 or 6 or something. Do you have a first memory of seeing music played live?
Good question. Not that yet, I think. Not that I can recall. Let me think. Well, some of the big ones I suppose, are most memorable. I don't know about first, but seeing the bigger bands come up to North Queensland and Townsville, which we used to get before they were really well known on the commercial radio stations like Midnight Oil, In Excess, the Vinyls, Models, Sunny Boys, all those type of bands. They're the most memorable. But live, I think it was something maybe like a duo or a solo at a pub.
Yeah,
What you're still doing now, a bit of, mate.
Yeah.
I definitely can remember that. A few pubs and the guys just playing in the corner. It's a bit more sophisticated now, but out in the beer garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember.
Yeah, it's cool. So let's go to the first song. So I think you've got a bit of a theme the way you've done this. I mean, Ruby kind of had a theme, but so what are we going to go with? What are we going to go with first, Daz?
Well, essentially, I sort of when you asked me my favourite song, when you sent it through about the podcast, and I thought to myself, well, initially, some of these songs weren't initially my favourite songs. They were the most important people in my life's favourite songs, and they grew my favourite songs because we shared them all the time. They're always good songs, don't get me wrong, and I like all of them, but that's how I've sort of approached it, and that's how. So the first one I was going to go with was Dad, which you know yourself, Toby, I don't talk about too much. So
So you lost your dad. I remember. So we were kind of pretty young then. We must have been 16, 17, weren't we?
Yeah. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I sort of prepared some notes in case I well up a bit so I don't go off track. But
it's all right.
But like the theme of the songs really is like family and friends and love for these favourite songs. There is connections throughout the songs and the people in my life. You know, it's amazing how that thread overlaps and reinforces through the songs. And they're usually bonded around the comfort and routine of good times. You know, like remembering. Yeah. So that's sort of the theme. Is that, and obviously family and friends hang out together as your relationships develop and grow. So there's that thread that goes through the songs and important people in my life. Basically.
Yeah.
So what do we go with first?
All right.
Wichita Lineman, Glenn Campbell.
I love it.
I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I can hear you through the whine, and the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line.
Yeah, it's a deeper song than you think, isn't it?
Yeah, I said I chose it for Dad, and we used to sit on the front step at home on a balmy Friday night up in North Queensland, just catching the breeze and some country and western tunes. But that song's been dubbed as the world's greatest unfinished song.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a song without a chorus or a bridge, and it still feels complete. You know, that's the way they've written about it, and you know, the way the song climbs from the footpath up the pole. A lot of metaphors there, along the power lines and beyond.
Yeah, and is it? I think is it true that it's about? I think the guy who wrote it was Jimmy Webb. No,
yeah,
Jimmy Webb. and he would drive out west past these guys that were working on the lines, and they'd be on the, they'd be fixing the lines right out west of in America, and he'd be, how they have the little receiver, and he would think about, well, who's he talking to? What's he listening to? Is he listening in on people's line calls?
Yeah. Well, it's about, and that's how I related it to Dad in reflection, and I didn't really realise it at the time. We definitely listened to the song together a lot, and other country and western songs, but essentially it's about Dad used to work away a lot too, and drive the main road is one of the lines in the song. He used to be a main road sort of foreman, and work out of town on the highways and work away from home a lot when I was younger. I think it was little before I met you, or just when I met you, and you didn't, and that's why I used to stay around Tave's house a lot on the weekend.
Yeah,
Dad was away a lot, and
vice versa.
50 metres away. But yeah, it's essentially about the agony of a hard-working man working away, and think that he's doing the right thing for his family, but in a way he's drifting away as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
he's got his own life on the road apart from his family as well. Yeah,
and the thoughts of us and Mum at home aches in Dad's soul, and he, like so many men, they're working hard to make a living and provide for their families. But the need for their own fulfillment and their own wants and essential fulfillment not there,
Yeah,
so anyway,
that's interesting, isn't it? Because that's kind of what a professional musician's life is like as well, isn't it?
I know it's heavy for a Thursday night podcast, but it's pretty deep. Like I said it before, it's a pretty deep song. Most songs, you can read whatever you want into it, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think every one of our vintage people in our vintage, I'm a 65 version as well. Yeah. And my dad loved Glenn Campbell, and he used to have all these, the old tapes that he'd record them from, and he'd have the handwritten song listing, and he just loved his Glenn Campbell. So,
well, that song, that little bass riff intro, and that's pretty unique. That little riff, and then the friends come in, and it was a little bit different for country songs at the time.
Yeah, Glenn Campbell was a great guitar player, and he did a lot of session work. He was actually in they called them the Wrecking Crew. They did a lot of stuff out of LA, and he recorded guitar on a lot of the Beach Boys tracks. So cool, good first choice, Darren.
Excellent, good start.
That's all right. Glad you like.
Right.
So what do we move on to now?
Well, this one, another important person in my life. It's Tave, best friend.
Thank you.
From very early, and essentially, just a bit of background and context on that. Our initial musical influence was from Tave's older brother Mark, and his record collection. And things. I mean, I'll probably forget a few of them, and Tave will remind me. But the Stones and Led Zepp and AC/DC. But one stood out to me was the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
He had one record for the Doobie Brothers, I remember. It never really got played much. It was a bit more of the rock, and I don't know, Tave knows as well, I just love that bounce, that chord progression, that bounce that the Doobie Brothers have.
Yeah.
And that sort of led me into ska and a bit of upstrum, that little fiddly bits that makes the song bounce along. So... but essentially, like I said before, Mark taught us how to play guitar, but we sort of grew into our own genre of music. Even though we started a band at high school, we had to rehearse a lot of songs, as we all know. When you're playing in bands, you have to sort of do a lot of covers to get the work, but we always slipped a few originals in there. And essentially, we formed a band that wrote and performed an entire night of originals called the Alphabet Dancers. So I picked a song, one of our originals, and we had a few at the time, quite a few, like I said, a whole night's worth, a fair few sets, called Mothers and Babies. Bit of a background to this song was my now wife and I Sarah were having a baby at such a young age, which was a little bit of a shock and a great surprise. And essentially, I don't know whether it was our way of dealing with it or my way of dealing with it with Tave, but we wrote a happy, healthy, happy song about mothers and babies. And being in the moment and not worrying about what everyone was going to say or think, because we were only about 20 years old. And it was a beautiful moment, and the birth of our first daughter, Kate.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's the story behind mothers and babies.
And so the recording we're going to hear, am I correct in saying this is from 1984?
1985.
Okay.
The only way I've anchored it, mate, is because I know the birth of.
Correct. There you go.
Yeah.
I do remember it, Darren. I do remember you telling me that what had happened, and I probably wasn't as much shock as you, but I thought, holy shit, that makes us grow up a bit quick. So,
this is a live recording.
Yeah,
live recording from the Crown Hotel in Palmer Street in Townsville for any Townsville listeners.
All righty, and this is
Mothers and Babies. that's
How does it feel? How does that feel?
I think there must have been a mixing desk. You could only hear the drummer and the vocals.
That's funny.
And the crowd.
Gavin.
And the crowd.
Bruno.
Yeah.
That's quite a cool little song, and what a great sight! Can I just say, going and hunting around on that site where that recording is, the Spliffs are there, the Madmen are there, all Townsville bands that have. Oh, it's amazing.
We could do a whole show on that site. We just need Darren to find if we can find someone who put that up. And get them on to talk about all those Townsville bands. That'd be great.
Or Russell or Richard. I'm pretty sure Russell's still around.
It was Russell, wasn't it? Tall, black hair.
There's two of them. Russell and Richard were the two sort of main drivers of the Tentative and the 4TTT hops. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's funny for me when I listen to that. I think I cringe at most of the lyrics and some of the music, but every now and then there's one line I go, "Fuck! How did a naive 20-year-old come up with that line?" So some of it I'm proud of. Yeah, it's pretty good for 20-year-olds.
Mate, I could just picture that in the Crown and having just a young local band just playing for everything that they've got, dreams and stars in their eyes, and
that was it.
Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. So.
All right, great second choice, Darren, and well done on actually finding that.
Yeah.
I lost it
in the vault.
We won't lose that again. No. That's really cool. Okay, so
just before we move on, 4TTT, I used to do some DJ work for them when I lived in Townsville, and I'd always be on the evening show, the graveyard shift, and one of their studios in there. I don't know whether they're still in the same place in Townsville, but it used to be an old bank vault.
Right.
And it was pretty freaky being the only person there in the station, and you're inside this.
Worse if you're in Adelaide.
Bank vault.
Hey, well, maybe Curly, we could reach out to 4TTT, send them that link, and say, is there anyone come and talk about
who's still around?
Yeah,
there has to be people.
Stories there. There's a lot of stories there, like you said, for you guys, and even for themselves.
Yeah. It's
all right.
All right, let's go. We're moving on.
Number three.
Number three. This song's regarding my wife Sarah. The song. There's lots of songs we shared together. She was right into music, and I'll tell a funny story. We first met her. We had a 6-week residency down at the Seaview Hotel. Like I said before, a circuit band didn't rock up, and we just won Battle of Bands, and we're pretty tight. So, we thought I think we're only 17, 18 years old. I think we're unlawful for some of us to be in a bar, but anyway, we're playing. And the guy we had on the mixing desk, girlfriend, was a friend of Sarah's. So she came down and met her for the first time, and anyway, it sounds a bit cringy, but the first time I saw her, I knew, basically, and 40 years later, we're still together.
That's fantastic.
High school sort of sweethearts, really, but even though we went to different schools, but of that age and that era. Stable vouch from you. Sarah's got a really, really eclectic and cool taste in music over the years. We sort of, in the early days, was sort of restricted to what we were learning and playing, I suppose, Dave, you could say that. We sort of developed our own sort of listening genres a little bit later, but in the early, what I'm talking about, when we were 17 to 20, essentially we're just listening, on the cassette. You know what it was like, Curly, you get the old cassette recorder, there was no tabs and words. And so you had to put a lot of work in to get the songs down, arguing over the lyrics and the chord progressions, etc. But anyway, so we initially, just to give some background to this music, we initially sort of loved the ska, the sort of new wave alternative sort of the early days of Joe Jackson, Elvis Costello, Graham Park, all those, The Jam, The Clash, The Cure, all those type of bands, and then moving into obviously the Australian pub bands, which we had to cover, like the Sunny Boys and the Models, Australian Crawl, the Vinyls, the Oils, etc. But, you know, we were fairly happy-go-lucky. I mean, punk in those days was meant to be aggro and rebellious, but we sort of weren't like that. One song, which is not the song, but one song I was telling Tave about was Nick Lowe, Cruel to Be Kind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that song. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the story
song.
of that was I got an internship at the Main Roads Department to do engineering, and essentially I went away out west for about 2 or 3 months to do some work experience. And I used to ring Sarah every night because we basically met each other, and essentially I always have a dig at her to this day. And when I was coming up with these songs, I was telling her about it as, you know, I always finish the phone call. Sounds a bit cringy, guys, but, you know, I love it, you know, and she didn't say it. And I kept away, and then I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm working away, and the feeling of Dad's coming back to me, but working away, and am I going to lose her? Anyway, Cruel to Be Kind, you know, and she just sort of said to me, no, I'm not saying it till I mean it. This is pre our daughter. And, like always, she's right. As we know, boys, they're always right.
I'll tell you something about Sarah, Curly.
Still together 4 years later.
If you're doing a pub quiz and you need someone to answer the music question, she's the girl.
It's Sarah.
Photographic mind.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right. So what's the song? What are we listening to?
What I've chosen is On the Alert by the Naturals.
Oh, hang on, Curly. Hold it up.
Wait a sec. I was going to do that afterwards, but we'll do it now.
Look at this. I thought I got the single, but I don't have the picture fucking single. Look at that. You bastard.
Yeah, I hadn't heard this song for so long.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. So let's put it on, and
we used to bop around the dance floor on this one.
Oh, yeah.
If there is a God, he doesn't like
I was in love with her.
Yeah, how good's that?
What was her name, Kelly? Is it on the thing you got there?
Yeah. We have got. Actually, no.
Okay. I just remember them playing at the Seaview, and I'd be standing. I'd be like a little fanboy, standing up the front of where they were playing, just staring at her.
Don't tell her he's not. Don't tell Tave her name. You'll look for her on Facebook.
So whatever happened to the Naturals?
I don't know, but the B side of that single is called "Flying Mattress." Is that right?
Yeah.
Which is another great song.
Which is another great song. Yeah.
Yeah. I was tossing up which one. I sort of went for On the Alert because at the time I was studying engineering and, like I said, at Main Roads part-time, but just for work experience. But I went home to Sarah's family to meet him, and they said to me, he doesn't have a job.
But you were shoveling.
I'm on the alert.
You were
on the alert.
No, but you were shoveling. You were shoveling dirt, like the song says. You were shoveling dirt.
Yeah. And I said, I'm a lead singer of the band. Possibly go right.
How many songs like that sit here in Australia that were just like really wonderful and mean something to some people, but just never really got that mainstream success?
No, that's right. Well, it's like we always talk about the boys, Curly, don't we? It's like that whole album.
Well, we do. But I guess in those days, in '84, we used to have like Sounds Unlimited, we'd have Rage, we'd have Rock Arena, we'd have Countdown.
Yeah.
So there were so many avenues where we were like watching or tuned into a show where people were saying you need to do yourself a favor and all of that. And in many cases, some of those bands that were on there like were bands that we just grew to love, and they were little independent bands, or Ups and Downs are on Countdown, for example. That's I still get Well, I think amazing. We were told.
I think it's because there was not as much music out there, and it was harder to get it. You had to record it off Countdown. You had to go and buy the thing. So when you did it, you just cherished it. You played the fuck out of it. And so that's why you get to love it.
And that's why people need to listen to this podcast, because we will help you choose the music to listen to. Do yourselves a favour.
Okay, some of the other bands from that era, just honourable mention. We said Flying Mattress before on the B side, but Big Five, you remember that ska band? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to love that band as well. Hume Highway and Come Back Diana, and Tave's got it there. Yeah,
Big Five, Hume Highway.
Like a ska band, they were tight. They were very good.
Yeah.
Bands like Spy vs. Spy, Spy, one of a kind. That ska influenced indie rock band we used to love as well. That was one of my favourite songs, and it almost beat Flying. I'm on the alert because it's a 6.5 minute song, mate. When you first meet a girl, that's twice as long to dance with her than any other song.
He's always thinking.
But I think we were a bit spoiled too, because around that time I was seeing bands like the Eurogliders play at Mansfield Tavern down here. We'd have the Dynamic Hypnotics. They were they're an amazing band live.
Texarkana Burger Bar. We used to put that.
Yeah.
We used to love that.
And you can walk. You walk. Go to a pub, then walk out see the live band. Walk out, walk 50 yards, see another live band. Walk out, walk 50 yards, see another live band. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, we're moving on through the years, Daz. Where are we going now?
Yeah, what's next?
My daughter's next. Obviously, I have two, but I had to sort of narrow it down to one. My daughter's Kate and Hannah.
You narrowed down to one song or one daughter?
One song.
Which one got the boot? Who got the boot?
Essentially, there was I do have a favourite song like "Rock with You," Michael Jackson with Hannah, and "Got to Be Real," Cheryl Lynn come to mind with Kate. And she ties into a genre they really like, a retrospective genre, yacht rock. Cheryl Lynn. She was like a session muso and singer, backup singer to like Toto and Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald, all that era, you know. And she went out and wrote her own sort of, I don't know, disco-y soul, Gotta Be Real, sort of. But I'm not going with them. But essentially, this all ties back to, you know, dancing, our disco lounge parties, which Ruby talked about the other night. I watched the podcast of you and Ruby when you asked me to come on just to get a feel for everything. And, yeah, they were fun, you know, dancing with the daughters and the goddaughter and our best friends, Tave and Yvette, nearly every weekend. Essentially, that's the sort of thread. But I went away from – there's so many songs I could have chosen from those nights. There was so – I mean, I asked the girls and they sent about 10 each and I couldn't narrow it down. So I went with a similar era song and a similar feel song, sort of like a disco soul feel song that we long to be together, like Tave and Ruby and Yvette are in Adelaide. My two daughters are in Brisbane and have been since they left school and went to uni down there. And the song I've chosen is Keep the Fire Burning by Gwen McRae, because it's all about, you know, we all want to be together in one city to get our Friday nights going again in a disco lounge party. So I chose that.
Yeah. Can you feel it? I can. It's good. Yeah. Now move with it. Everybody that's on the dance floor, I want you to put your hands together and just move your hips from side to side. Yeah, that's it. You got it. Now, Mr. DJ, I want you to get on down with us. It's your time to be a star. Yeah, can you feel it? You gotta ride it, baby. Yeah, it's good to me. I know you feel it. Come on, get up now. Listen. Keep the fires burning. Keep the fires burning. Keep them burning hot. Work on your love, yeah. You gotta give it all you got. We spend a lot of time searching for love and never know where it's coming from. And as soon as we get it, somehow we seem to think that our work is done. But the same thing it took to get that love are the things that you'll have to do to keep it. You gotta stay on your J.O.B. You gotta give a little, take a lot. Give it all you got. Oh, keep the fires burning. Keep the fires burning. Keep them burning hot. You gotta work on your love, yeah. You gotta give it all you got. We say a lot of things that we really mean to each other when love is new. Lots of promises and all the things we've said are the things we intended to do. But as time goes by, things get cold and dry. There's no more water in the well, and there ain't no way that two can come together if we stay locked in ourselves. Oh, keep the fires burning. Keep the fires burning. Keep them burning hot, hot. You gotta work on your love, yeah. You gotta give it all you got. Oh, work on it. Oh, you gotta work on it. Work on it. Work on it. Yeah. Work on it.
All right.
Oh,
How
man.
good was that?
It's my new favourite song.
Girls, every Christmas in Brisbane, I promise the girls
You
I'll
play that
it every
one?
day
Yeah.
until we get together again and live together again. You know, in the same city.
I'd never heard that one. I'd never heard that song until you sent it to me
it's not
today.
a song you heard, mate.
I know. That's my new favourite song now.
Keep the fires burning.
I love it.
It's catchy. It's
Good lyrics.
incredibly catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. That's,
And what year was that, Darren?
You got me, mate. I think it was 70s. I'm just not sure
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So isn't it amazing that we're still talking about the same thing, but you got to work at keeping
At
the
love.
fires burning in relationship. Yeah, you got to work at it. So
yeah.
yeah.
I think
Great
the
choice.
three of us are all very lucky that we have been in the same relationship with the same women for a long time. And I think all three of us would know that you have to work at shit like that. So any sort of relationship. It's not easy. It's not like the movies.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're down to the last song. Darren,
Ooh.
what have we got?
Mate, the last one is the last one is my family song. Straight off the bat, September by Earth, Wind and Fire. Or it also has that doobie bounce feel to it, and great vocals by Maurice White and Phil Bailey of Easy Lover duo with Phil Collins. You remember Phil Bailey?
Yeah, Phil Bailey, Phil Collins. I'm an easy lover. Just gotta hold
Mate,
it.
yeah. He was singing this as well and sang Earth, Wind and Fire. It's the background of this song. I just think it's got that great intro. With the horns and the drums, you know, that like the I don't know. I just remember it. It's got a long intro, but it gives you time to get to the dance floor before you get your groove on.
I'm pretty sure it won a Grammy Award, this song.
Truly?
For the writing of it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it won a Grammy, yeah.
Sort of. Yeah, and it's so layered. You know, I was telling Tate the other night that, you know, listening to music with headphones on is so different. You can hear things panning in and out and coming in, and the layering is amazing. Like, obviously they're always there when you listen without earphones, but it just that extra level of detail you listen to, and it's got a killer groove from the get go, and that it just gives us that shimmering bounce, I call it. You know, and you just float around the dance floor. You know?
I've got something to say about this song. This song is so
just funny sort of feeling. Yeah, I don't know.
Ruby, who was on a couple of weeks ago, who happens to be Darren's goddaughter. Such nepotism on this show, but it's all right. She just relates this song to Darren because every time there's a disco lounge party, you know, we'd start off with, I'd be playing tunes. Oh, listen to this is new. And the girls would be like, yeah, that's good. And then as the night would progress, eventually Darren would make his way to the thing. And as soon as that come on, you know, Darren's on the DJ now. As soon as that song came on, we're going to be dancing. It's going to be disco. It was great. Loved it. So
I love the song for the groove it gets on.
All right, let's. So, what are we listening to?
September by Earth, Wind.
Unfortunately, copyright restrictions prevent us from sharing this song. The link, however, is in the show notes.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And you're listening to our friends Braggy and Curly on the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast.
That film clip that puts hope in the heart of every man with a receding hairline.
How cool was the fashion? But seriously, I mean, yeah. As Darren shows his receding hairline. So, you got to love the 70s. I'm sorry. I just, you know.
Don't be sorry. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was just...
Like I said, it just gives me that continuous spinning, floating feeling, you know? Like, I don't know. I think it's the... because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I think it's the, um, because I listened on the earphones, I headphones, I should say, a lot.
Yeah.
I noticed that the drums, the bongos, the shakers, the hi-hat, sizzle, the snap on the snare, and all these, you don't realise until you really listen to it closely. I don't know, it just gives you that secure feeling of spinning around the dance floor with your family and friends. You just feel like you can spin forever.
Isn't it a wonderful feeling to put songs and listen to them actually listen to music? I feel a lot of people don't listen to music properly. They'll have it on, they like it, but it's just there. Exactly. And I know it's good to have on when you're having a function, you're doing stuff and you're talking, you've got family out for dinner. I mean, we always have it on, but it's so wonderful if you just sit down by yourself in a dark space and really get inside the music. It's an amazing feeling for it. If people haven't done that,
and that's when you hear the space and the depth and the delicacies of music.
Yes, correct, Curly. Wow.
I love to get my groove on and dance, and I was going to mention that. I don't know. I didn't have to drink or have any drugs to dance. It was just one of I used to have a saying with my daughters and friends. That drugs and drink is only for people that can't dance. I was racing the pub rock scene, mate. I never. I was absolutely disgraced to be a lead singer in a rock band.
Yeah.
Disgrace to the industry.
So, Darren, how did you feel going through and choosing those 5 songs with meaning?
Oh, Curly, it was hard. It was difficult. Just to narrow it down. I mean, because music's been a big part of our lives. I know it's a big part of everyone's life, but having played in the early days in the band and Tave's still in that and still recording and making records and my daughter's loving music and it's always on. It's on the shower. It's in the car. It's everywhere. At night, I listen to podcasts, but I'll also listen to music. So hard to narrow it down to 5. Very hard.
I really like the way you did it, Darren, and I like the way. And it's not your 5 favourite songs, and you figured that out. It's 5 songs that mean something to you. I think Ruby kind of she was kind of a guinea pig as well. But I think she got it, and you especially have got it tonight. Songs that have some part of your life that you go that I'll always go back to that and remember that for that reason. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
But in saying that, mate, Tave, I come up with a few sort of things. In summing up was, memories are lovely, but they don't love you back. And I've learned to sort of obviously love, but also live in the moment. So I think. Yeah. Having songs having meaning from so long ago and creating lovely memories, I think it's important to enjoy them for what they are now as well.
Yes,
and I think we need to live in the moment, like you said, Tate, before. Not just have them on in the background, just really, really listen to them. And reflection's a good thing, but I think to live in the moment is important as well,
get out and discover new songs that are going to mean something to you.
Yeah. And music and memories and moments have and continue to provide moods and which is sort of like an advanced feeling for the experience you're about to have. You know what I mean? So you get you in the mood and you just want to it can determine your mood from the get-go of a song on. And it can give you that, the metronomic rhythm of that event or that moment. So anyway, that's
absolutely.
My little wrap up on memories and moments and songs.
You're a very wise man, Darren, and it's really interesting because tomorrow night, as Braggy alluded to, I've got a work function, and a lot of the people at work today were talking about pre-drinks and going out for pre-drinks before going to the function, and maybe if they went out for a pre-dance, they might enjoy the function just as much as, having a couple of pre-drinks. So, Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've been going for just over an hour, believe it or not. So I'm I'm just going to wrap it all up here. Hey, and once again, just thank you. It's been a great night walking down some memories with some great music, and always good to hear the Naturals on the alert again. So I'm pretty stoked. Next week, we should have Blake Cateris on the program. Braggy, Blake from Sydney.
Yep.
And we hopefully have a special guest co-host as well. So I won't mention who that is, but there may be 3 co-hosts next week. So who knows where that may lead us going into 2023.
Curly's showing me the door.
As per...
I missed one episode, and he's going to show me the door.
I've got to have backups now. I can't, mind you. The listeners and the downloads from last week were pretty good, Braggy.
They were, mate.
Have to watch it.
Oh no! And if I get this other host right, he's got big numbers on his episodes too.
Absolutely, he gets awesome numbers. So, Darren, you were going to say something? Sorry.
No, make sure I tune in.
Absolutely. It promises to be a great one. So, as per always, wherever you're listening to this or watching this, subscribe. You'll find us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Check out the playlist that we have on Spotify. Those songs tonight will be added to that particular playlist. Just do a search for Unfiltered and Undiscovered. And every song we've talked about or featured on the podcast is on that playlist. We've got our website, of course, at unfilteredandundiscovered.com. And Braggy, I think Joy Division says it the best. Love will tear us apart again. Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you, Braggy.
Make sure you click, Curly. Tell them to make sure they click subscribe on the YouTube, like. Anywhere you see a button that says like or subscribe, do it.
Hey y'all, I'm Allison Asarch from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids.
Hunters, this is Johnny from Rail Motor.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season.
Hey, it's Rob Stanley, and you can check out my music on all the streaming platforms.
Check out my latest music on all the streaming sites.
Check out my debut album on all streaming platforms.
Check out our new debut album.
Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music, and you're listening to our friends Braggy and Curly.
My favorite fans from Australia.
My 2 favourite podcasters,
Braggy and Curly.
Braggy and Curly
On the
Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast.